Are you somebody who's tired of the same old family sedans on the market these days? Maybe you're somebody who wants to add that little extra zing to your daily driver. What's good, everybody, and welcome back to The Driveway, where today we are out in the 2020 Toyota Camry TRD, a car that started its life as your everyday V6 Toyota sedan. However, now it's been lovingly tended to by one of the most legendary names in Toyota's motorsports history. Now, if you asked yourself either one of those questions earlier, then stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to take her for a spin and show you everything you need to know about why this could be the end of your family sedan woes. All right, everyone, so welcome to the new Camry TRD. Now, this is a car that I've been very excited to drive ever since I heard that Toyota was finally launching a hot version of this new Camry. Now, the real hotness in this car not only lies out on the road, it lies in what makes this car so special. And the real big thing for me that hit me first and foremost was the price tag. Believe it or not, this is the cheapest way to get into a V6 equipped Camry. If you look at the XSE or XLE with the V6 engine, you're going to be paying significantly more than the $31,000 price tag that Toyota has placed on the Camry TRD. Now, as far as options on my test car, there's only two worth mentioning. The first of which is the two-tone midnight black metallic roof, which also includes the rear spoiler, the mirror caps, and the blacked out window trim. And the other one is that this is the most special color out of the four that you can get for this new Camry TRD. Now, the exterior on my car is dressed in supersonic red, which really is accented nicely by that black roof. The only other colors you can get are wind chill white pearl, there's a beautiful silver, and there's also a solid midnight black metallic. Now, once you add in those options, plus the $930 delivery processing and handling fee, the grand total on my test car comes to $32,985, which is a hell of a price tag for the hottest Camry of the bunch. Now, there's no point talking more about this. We need to get this car out on the road. So let's fire her into life, take her for a spin. Now, over the years, I've had the chance to drive a lot of vehicles that have claimed sporty driving characteristics, but they've really all fallen under the same theme. A lot of body cladding, special colors, maybe a small tuned exhaust or a small tuned something or other, but they just don't have that invigorating feeling that the sporty namesake they carry suggests. But the Camry TRD is different. It is nothing like any other Camry that I've ever driven before. Now, the first thing you will definitely notice when you start driving this Camry TRD around is the sound it makes. Now, Toyota Racing Development has made a special catback exhaust just for this car, and it comes from the factory. Remember, like I said, there's very few options on this car, so most of the stuff you're going to see on this thing is from the factory out of the gate. Now, I love the sound that this car makes, and that 3.5 liter V6 that comes up front, making 301 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque, and it'll knock out a 0 to 60 time in less than 6 seconds, sounds amazing. Gosh, I could do that all day. Now, while this Camry's exhaust sounds absolutely wonderful and I could rev this thing to its 6,800 RPM redline all day long, the other thing that I've really enjoyed during my time with this car is actually the ride. Believe believe it or not, even though Toyota Racing Development has stiffened the underbody braces for this car and also specifically tuned the McPherson strut suspension in front and multi-link independent suspension out back, it's actually a lot more compliant out here on the road than you might think. And the other thing that also aids in the sort of comfort level in this car is actually the level of road noise in here. Now granted, this car is riding on some low profile tires on some beautiful 19-inch rims, but that doesn't really mean that the road noise is just going to obliterate your eardrums. Believe it or not, I've actually been able to take this car out on multiple different road surfaces and not really had any complaints about it whatsoever. But the benefits to that suspension don't just stop with the road noise. This car actually handles like a proper sports sedan. I mean, granted, it's not a BMW, an Audi, or a Mercedes, or anything like that, where the German technology shines through even more. With this car, it is exactly what you would expect a sporty car to drive like. In sport mode, like I have it in right now, the handling is not quite pin sharp, but definitely a lot more responsive than any other Camry that's come before it. I can turn this car into a corner and actually have some confidence in its turning abilities. Now granted, I haven't taken this car on a track, so I can't fully say that just yet, but knowing that Toyota Racing Development has that motorsports heritage, I would not hesitate to do some laps in this car at the same time. At the end of the day though, let's face it, this is still a Toyota Camry. It is not going to be a high-performance sedan or the best mid-size sedan of all time. There are still elements of cost-cutting in this car, and we'll see a lot more of those once we look at things like the exterior and the interior. But just from where I'm sitting, I can tell you a couple of things that this car is missing. For example, there is only an 8-way power-adjustable driver's seat. You don't get anything over here on the passenger side. So if you want your passenger to be just as comfortable as you are in the driver's seat, you might want to go for one of the higher trims. Also, being the fact that we have such bipolar weather here in the great state of Texas, there are no heated seats, or ventilated seats for that matter, not even available as an option on this car. So that is still something that I wish Toyota had included on the TRD. But then also that would increase the price tag and put it right in the firing line of its two more expensive stablemates that I mentioned earlier. So if you're somebody who wants to save a few bucks, you want a car that performs well, that's a little bit more exclusive than your everyday run-of-the-mill family sedan, and you still don't mind, missing some of the features, then the Camry TRD could definitely be that mid-size sedan that you've always dreamed of. Now, like I was saying, there's a lot more to this Camry TRD than just the driving experience, so let's take a look at the rest of this vehicle and see just exactly what else Toyota Racing Development has added to this hot new Camry. Now, although it's pretty obvious the differences in performance between this limited edition Camry TRD and something more mainstream like an SE or even better the XSE trim, when it comes to the overall exterior and visual appeal, yes, there are a few little minute things that Toyota and TRD have added onto this car to again give it more of a visual taste. However, if you look at certain areas or pretty much everything, you'll definitely see a lot of bodywork taken straight again from the SE or XSE, and it really doesn't take too keen of an eye to spot it. I mean, things like the giant grille up here with sort of the wing design across the top, big enclosed Toyota badge there in the middle, and the fact it cascades from body color up here at the top to a piano black finish there across the bottom, and that of course transitions into the mesh inserts here on the inside as well. And then of course you've got the little black pieces that trail all the way up to the blacked out bi LED headlights. Now these are not full LEDs, they've got incandescent turn signals here, but they do have the LED main beam. This does come with auto high beam assist. You do have the LED daytime running light that runs around the outside of it. And also, speaking of lacking, there's no fog lights on this vehicle either. Everything is pretty much comprised up here within the headlight housing itself. And also, if you look down here at the bottom, of course, you do have the front edge, at least, of the subtle body kit that TRD has given this Camry as well. But as you come around the side, of course, you get to the main eye candy, which are these. These are the 19 by 8-inch matte black finished TRD specific aluminum alloy wheels, and only Now, aside from the subtle body kit and those 19-inch wheels, everything else on the outside here is rather plain, to be honest with you, because like I was saying, Toyota did cut a bit of costs on this car, mainly in terms of the amount of options they added to this car. Not so much options, rather standard features, I should say. As I said, one of the options on my car is the blacked out mirror caps along with the blacked out window trim. That's all part of some sort of blackout package that goes inside, coincides with the black roof as well. But they do not have any form of blind spot monitoring. As you can see, the entire upper corner of the mirror, where there would normally be a little icon for the blind spot monitoring, is non-existent. So that is a bit of a letdown, especially considering at this car's price point. Now, you do have the standard Toyota keyless access on this car, so you have the standard Toyota key, which I'm surprised they didn't put a TRD logo on the back of this one. It kind of would have looked a little bit nicer, but got your usual array of buttons: lock, unlock, trunk, panic, you get the picture. And then of course you have the touch pads used to unlock and lock the vehicle. So right now it's locked, just have the key on me, grab the door, that opens it. And then of course to lock it, you have these little ribbed patterns here along the front. You just tap it with the key on you. Now, while the front end of the Camry definitely has its own polarizing design aspects, when you come back here to the back, this is where things really start to get interesting. And the first thing I'm going to point out, yep, you guessed it, it's that pedestal spoiler. Or maybe not a pedestal. I don't know what Toyota was thinking when they built this, because honestly, I would have been just fine with these two little pegs right here and a nice straight wing that goes all the way across. But then they put this weird little divot right in the middle, and I am not sure what the designers at Toyota were thinking when they put that on there. Maybe for 2021, if they decide to make another limited run of these, they'll put a proper pedestal spoiler on there. Other things definitely worth noting, back here at the back, we do have semi-LED taillights. You have LED main bulbs, however, the reverse lights and turn signals are both incandescent. Of course, you have a couple of other things worth note. You have the blacked out Camry name and Toyota badge, as well as the beautiful red TRD badge down there, which I'm actually surprised Toyota didn't put more of these on this car. You know how some people are, they just have to paste their name everywhere. As you look back here down at the bottom, again, no rear park assist or anything like that. You do have the government mandated backup camera, which sits right here just under the M in Camry. And then of course, to complete the exterior body kit, we do have the really nice looking rear diffuser that goes across the bottom here. Now, just like any other member of the Camry family, of course, there are some criteria that people look for in a car of this size. It has to be quick, somewhat fuel efficient for what you get. It also has to be comfortable, but on top of all of that, it has to be practical. So when we open the trunk here, which is the latch just to the left of the passenger side taillight here, you actually open up to a pretty sizable space. Now, there are some gripes that I have back here, and the first of which is that the hinges actually stick down when they're in the trunk. It's nice that Toyota has lined them in plastic, but still that is a little bit of a worry. If you have something that is a little bit wider, that would fit, say, inside of these indentions here. Numbers on paper are pretty class competitive. You're looking at 15.1 total cubic feet of space, although there is one big gripe, and it's right there. Now, you'll find out what that is a little bit later in the review, but trust me, for those of you who get to that part of the video, you're not really going to like what you have to hear. But overall, if you're looking for something that is a little bit more up your performance alley compared to a normal Camry, but you want something practical as well, the TRD should fit that bill no problem. Now, if you thought the cost cutting was bad on this car's outside, you should take a look at this vehicle's interior. Now, I can't trash it completely because the TRD Camry was not built to be a luxury car. It was meant to be about performance. So of course the money had to go somewhere, right? Which left very little budget for things like the upholstery here on the seats. This is a material known as Softex, which is sort of like an imitation leather. I mean, the underpinnings of the seats underneath the material are definitely soft. I mean, I could definitely go for some miles in this car, not a problem. You do have fabric inserts here in the middle, the nice black and red contrast with the little red Softex accent up top, as well as the TRD logo on the front two headrests. And then of course, you got red seat belts. How cool of an accent is that, especially considering the optional supersonic red that I have on my test car here. Then of course, coming over here to the door, no memory seats, no big luxury things like that, just the basics. You have power mirrors, your window locks, power door locks, the keyless access, as I said before, as well as all 4 automatic windows. Ah, yes. Now finally behind the wheel of the Camry TRD. I gotta say, it's definitely one of my favorite places to be. It certainly beats being cooped up in the house with absolutely nothing to do, especially during this lockdown crisis. But as far as the features on this Camry, we really only have the bare bones here, so really not a whole lot to go through in detail. The steering wheel itself, you got a leather rim with the red stitching up here on the inside, might I add, as well as all of your basic controls. You've got the aero pad control right here for the 4.2-inch multifunction display up there in your beautiful redded out gauge cluster. I don't know if that's even a word, but still it is for me. Of course, you do have all the other controls, things like the back button, hands-free Bluetooth. You do have the radio functions as well with hands-free voice control, as well as over here on the right, distance sensor and main functions for the radar cruise control, as well as the button to activate the lane departure warning with active steering assist. And you also have a couple of other radio controls over here at the bottom as well. Down here to the lower left, you have the tilting and telescoping function. So just pull that down, adjust the wheel how you like, then push it back up and it locks it in place. And then last but not least, you do have a couple of other buttons over here with a few little ubiquitous blank buttons to go along with it. You also do have a nice little coin holder or something like that. I actually like that little feature. I've kept my wallet here at some points. But as far as the available buttons over here, you have the auto high beam assist, traction control, opening the trunk, and opening the gas door. Now, if there's one true area, at least in the front half of this car, that is the most underwhelming out of everything in here, it would be right in this area here. I mean, for starters, we have a 7-inch display up here. That is extremely small when you compare a lot of cars these days with 12.5-inch screens, or maybe just a little bit less. So definitely something that is a little on the smaller side. Of course, you get things now here. If you go to the projection area in the menu function on this screen, you do have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and Amazon Alexa capabilities in here, so that's always a plus. But then again, you also have things such as the audio, Bluetooth telephone, the latest Toyota Entune app suite, as well as general info and setup. And as James May once said, you might need fingers like cocktail sticks to operate some of the buttons. Not necessarily these, but more so like your climate controls, but we'll get to that here in just a bit. So you have the home function, which brings you to this page here. You have the audio, of course, when you have Bluetooth telephone hooked up. You also have Sirius XM radio, FM and AM. You also have the availability for a GPS navigation, but then again with Amazon Alexa, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay, you can use Google Maps, Waze, turn-by-turn nav, all that stuff. It does not make sense to have a factory GPS system in here whatsoever. On the far right, you have Seek Track functions, phone, and the app suite itself. So that completes the majority of the buttons up here, if you exclude the single zone climate control system down here with your fan speed, temperature control, and then all of your basic functions, front, rear defrost, recycling, and so on. And the last thing that is somewhat underwhelming is actually the stereo system in this car. The TRD Camry uses Toyota's standard 6-speaker audio system. So you have 2 up there on the top of the dash, 1 in each of the front doors, and then 1 in each of the rear doors as well. Now, while it does make a good sound, I will say it's definitely not the best system that I've heard out of all of Toyota's products. Now, once you get through being underwhelmed by this upper part of the center console, there's really not too much else to talk about down here. Just in front of the shifter, and you may not be able to see that, but there's actually a sizable little cubby hole that hides up here in the front. So you have a nice little tray that slides back. No wireless charger, anything like that. If you want one of those, you definitely have to go with one of the upper end Camrys. And you also may or may not be able to see it, but there's one 12-volt, 120-watt outlet right there, as well as one 1.5 amp USB charger hidden down there as well. As you come back here along the middle of the center console, you do have 2 rather sizable cup holders. I don't seem to have a bottle on hand for demonstration, but trust me, they can hold some pretty large drinks nonetheless. You do have the TRD equipped shifter knob here with the TRD logo across the top, some nice red stitching, and this of course is connected to the 8-speed electronically controlled transmission with intelligence, or ECTI. Now, I'm surprised this isn't a dual clutch, because with the way this car shifts and how quick it behaves, it definitely feels like one, but it doesn't have the shutter off the line like your typical DCT. Now, you can also alter the performance of this car a little bit through the drive mode select. I was mentioning when we were driving this car earlier, you have 3 different modes. You have Eco, Normal, and Sport. Of course, the Sport activates the tightest form of the electric power steering, holds your revs a little bit higher, and also makes that throttle pedal like a light switch. It is so quick the way this car can accelerate. And like I said, 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds, which is definitely impressive for a Camry to say the least. Below that, you do have the auto brake hold feature, been using that quite a bit, as well as the electronic parking brake. And last but not least, of course, you have a sizable little center console with plenty of space for everything from your keys to your phone chargers. You've got 2 extra USB ports up here in the front. Now, while the things up in the front may be a little more disconcerting to people who are driving this car or riding shotgun, the real problem I have with this car actually happens here in the back. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still your typical Toyota Camry, so you do have space for 3 people comfortably across the back. This is still a solid 5-passenger mid-size car. But let's say you want to put something within that 15 some odd cubic feet of space you have in the trunk, but it's a little too big. So, like any other Camry, you would expect that the back seats could fold down accordingly. Well, no. You may see there is a little separation there in the middle, so you would think there's an armrest, but no. There is no center armrest in this car, and even more disappointingly, the back seats are not 60-40 split fold in this car. So that is where the TRD definitely fails in terms of being a practical and capable mid-size car. Again, this is built more for performance. It's not necessarily built to be the most accommodable of the Camry family. Now, when you get in, first off, I am a bit of a taller person, so I do have to step down a good bit. I definitely don't have any trouble clearing the door frame, by the way, so even though the door frame kind of curves back a little bit, I still was able to clear my head with ease. But the real problems I have back here is, number one, I'm sitting directly behind myself, and I don't exactly have the greatest amount of knee space here sitting in the back. I mean, of course, I could probably scoot the seat up and still be just as comfortable driving this car. However, if you are a rear occupant in here, you'll notice there are no USB ports located down here at the back. There's just a simple little cubby holder where you could maybe put your phone, your wallet, or something like that. And also, let's say you're a rear occupant in this car, you want to put your drink somewhere, you're going to have to put it in the door. And the bottle holders of this car are angled very, very awkwardly, so your drink is going to be leaning back this way, which has a much greater chance of it spilling. But overall, it is still a very comfortable place to sit back here. I really just wish, even though this car is the cheapest V6 Camry that you can buy right now for a brand new car, I still wish that Toyota had at least included a few more accommodations back here in the rear seat. Now, after seeing all of that, you may be wondering to yourself, how safe is this new Camry? Well, I'm happy to report that regardless of which trim level you go with, the 2020 Camry received a 5-star overall score from our friends at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That means 5 stars in the front, 5 stars side impact, and 5 stars for rollover. So even if you get a performance-oriented one like the TRD, trust me, you're still going to be safe regardless of where you go. Well, everyone, that wraps up our review and drive of the 2020 Toyota Camry TRD. I do hope you guys have enjoyed this review as much as I have, and if you have, leave a thumbs up, and also while you're at it, hit that subscribe button down below, because trust me, it will benefit the both of us in the end. At the end of the day, however, I have to give a huge thanks once again to my friends at Gulf States Toyota, i.e. Toyota USA, for providing us this wicked opportunity to drive a freaky and fun Camry for an entire week. But at the end of it all, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I gotta go drive this car while I still got the opportunity. See ya, and stay safe.